It's time now to preview the season as the Georgia State Radio Network microphones come to you from Sunbelt Conference Football Media Days at the Marriott Hotel in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana. For the next hour, the voice of the Panthers, Dave Cohen, talks with head coach Dell McGee, players Justin Abraham and Kevin Swint, as well as the commissioner of the Sunbelt Conference, Keith Gill. Now from New Orleans, here's Dave Cohen.
Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome to the Panther Insider Podcast College Football Preview Show. This latest show coming to you from the Sunbelt Conference Football Media Day at the Marriott Hotel in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana. This is Dave Cohen, the radio voice of the Panthers. On this latest podcast show, we're talking Georgia State football with first-year head coach Dell McGee as the Panthers get ready for the 15th season in program history. Georgia State will kick off the season August 31 at Georgia Tech. And we'll also talk to two returning Panthers, outside linebacker Kevin Swint, who transferred from Clemson prior to last season, had 32 tackles, 4 sacks, and inside linebacker Justin Abraham, who was the Panthers' second leading tackler with 84, including 8 tackles for loss and 3.5 sacks. Again, Georgia State will open the season August 31 in Atlanta. They're going to go cross town and face Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Following that opener, it's 4 straight home games at Center Park Stadium. Chattanooga, Vanderbilt, Georgia Southern, and Old Dominion. Tickets available online or by calling the Athletics ticket office at 404-413-4020. And again, before we talk to Georgia State's head football coach on our show in our opening segment, a reminder, if you've missed any of our previous podcasts and shows, they're all available on our Apple Archives page. You can access that online at georgiastatesports.com. Again, live from New Orleans with Georgia State's head football coach Dell McGee here in our opening segment, your first Sunbelt Conference Football Media Day. And go back to April on the day that you were hired. A lot has transpired to get us to this point since you joined the Georgia State family.
Yeah, it's been a hectic 6 months, but some long days and nights, but very excited where our coaches and players and our administration are kind of aligned and we're working. It's been a lot of energy, enthusiasm from our team. Our strength staff is doing an outstanding job of conditioning and strengthening our guys, and we're just ready to get to camp on July 31st and start our first practice on August the 1st.
It's interesting you say that. Some coaches would say, and I guess you would probably say the same thing, the most important coach during the offseason is that strength and conditioning coach and that staff, because they're the ones that really got the players during the offseason and those summer days.
Absolutely. They're doing a tremendous job of instilling what we feel like is important to being a successful team. Our players are really working hard in that aspect, and I see them growing every single day. Not only from a leadership standpoint, but also just the discipline and the stamina and what it's going to take to be successful in these long, hot days of August.
When you go back to those first couple of days after you were getting hired, and again, there's so much coming at you at once. As you look back at it now, what were some of the things that were going through your mind that had to be taken care of, that have now been taken care of, and you feel like you're in what we'll call a comfortable spot, as you said, when you go through summer and get ready for fall camp?
Most important thing was just making sure the transition for the previous team was clean, and they did a great job of accepting me as a head coach. Secondly, just hiring a quality staff, which I think we did a great job of doing. And thirdly, just getting everyone on the same page and working towards that common goal on a daily basis. And like I said, the entire organization has bought into just that. Very excited about the opportunities. The great city of Atlanta has really welcomed me and my family along with our coaches, and we couldn't be more thankful to be in this situation.
You certainly attracted, as I figured that you would, a really quality staff, but an experienced staff. I know you got some young guys that you brought in as analysts, but starting right at the top, Jim at your offensive and Kevin as your defensive coordinator, you got two guys that have really walked the walk and talked the talk as you have with regards to college football.
Yeah, that was very important to me, just hiring two coordinators with experience that I worked with prior, and they understand the way that we're going to go about our daily business, and they're both leaders of their side of the ball. They're going to be able to coach the coaches, demand the standard from the coaches and the players, and really just lucky to have both of them on our staff. And, even the other coaches that we hired, Will Healy, prior head coach, new addition Hugh Jackson, prior head coach, with the new rule changes from the NFL. He's going to add a lot of experience in those situations. And then Coach Craig, another veteran receiver coach who brings the recruiting, the knowledge and development of the receiver position and in the passing game. I'm just ecstatic about, what we have. And now it's just time to get everyone on the same page and see what transpires over the next 37 days to August 31st.
Yeah, you mentioned get on the same page. There's that saying that, teams sometimes will take on the personality of their head coaches. If you had to describe, an out-of-body experience, describe a Dell McGee coached football team, not just you, but your staff, the guys who you've put together to lead this program.
Yeah, it's just going to go back to what we believe in. We're going to be competitive. We're going to have composure. We're going to be committed to the process. And we're going to play our nuts off when it's time. We're going to be very relentless in everything we do, very detail-oriented in all aspects of the game and in recruiting. So we're always going to look for new and inventive ways to do things. We're going to self-assess. And, when we do have losses, not necessarily losing games, but just negative moments, we'll make sure we learn from those moments as a team and as individuals so we don't make those same mistakes.
Obviously, recruiting is the lifeblood of any program. And really, as part of the process when you first get to Georgia State, not only are you out there recruiting, but it's that period where players are exiting the program for whatever reason. Players are then coming into the program because they want to play for you and the staff. What is that process like, and has it settled down a little bit?
It definitely settled down. We definitely had to talk to a couple of guys back to our team when I got the job. And unfortunately, we lost some guys. That was just part of the transition. No negative pun intended to those guys, just didn't necessarily meet the qualifications that we saw as a staff. But like I said, we've added 48 new transfers and walk-ons. So we definitely have a new team. Our team looks totally different than we did in the spring. We have competition at every single position, and it's going to be a really competitive camp coming up here in August.
Literally competition at every single position with all those new players. Let's just touch on a couple of spots. Obviously, everybody wants to know who's going to be the starting quarterback. Talk a little bit about the QB room, where we sit today.
Yeah, we still have Zach Gibson and Braylon Ragland, both holdovers. Then we added a walk-on in Raj Waldrop from Georgia. Very excited about his future. He's a lefty. Then we added Christian Vayer. He was at the University of Pittsburgh, and also Kyle Lowe, who played quarterback at Middle Tennessee State. All guys are really competing and working really hard to learn the playbook, be a master of their craft, and also you can kind of start to see the leadership qualities kind of step out with the team, and that's what I'm most interested in seeing from the quarterback position, who's going to step up and really be the leader and grab the bull by the horns of our offense.
Yeah, when you say leader, it's interesting you mentioned that. It's not just you're looking for somebody who can lead on the field, but also somebody vocal, somebody who makes a presence known in the locker room, and when backs are against the wall, can handle that.
Yeah, ideally that's what you would like, but over my experience, I know that being a leader, being vocal, that has to be something that's natural for that person. So I'm not going to ask anyone to kind of step out of their comfort zone. That was the reason I brought these two young men here. They're natural leaders. They've been doing a tremendous job with our team this summer. They demand, the standard daily, and I really appreciate, Kevin and Justin for their leadership and what they're doing for our team right now, and getting the buy-in from from the entire organization.
Yeah, two of the better what I call disruptors in the Sun Belt Conference. Guys that you want on your team, one on the outside, one on the inside, leading the way.
Absolutely. So looking for great things out of these young men, and I know they'll continue to progress and make sure they graduate after this season too. So that's another check mark that those young men will have.
I'm going to ask you a question about that as we move along. There's some people in the Georgia State camp that are not happy about our schedule this year after Georgia Tech. I mean, we don't leave Atlanta for the first 5 weeks or the first 5 games, and then we got 4 on the road, and that's kind of a gauntlet at that.
It is what it is. Can't control it. So, that's one thing we tell our guys, control what we can control. The only thing we can control is our preparation, and we'll have to make adjustments as coaches as the season progresses and just kind of assess where we are from a health standpoint, and we may have to adjust how we practice leading up to some of those road games. But as a player myself and as a coach, I used to love going on the road in those hostile environments and coming out with a victory. So that will be our mindset.
And you did that in the Southeastern Conference in some pretty hostile football stadiums. So, yeah, I guess if anybody can speak on that, you can. You mentioned quarterbacks. The other position on the offensive side that I wanted to talk about a little bit was running backs, because it seems like that room is loaded as well.
We added several new pieces there. South Florida transfer, Michael Dukes. We also added Mr. Ford from Tulsa. And we also added Savion Wilkerson from Colorado. 3 very capable backs that we're going to really depend heavily on. And they bring a lot of experience. They got different skill sets, which I like. And we just got to find ways to maximize that room. And they've already really embraced the running back by committee, so to speak. And they're really loving on one another and connecting. So it's really a great joy to see those guys work every day.
And still C.J. Beasley in from Coastal. If he's
Beasley and Freddie Brock are a part of that room. I was just bringing up the new transfers that was added to the room and moved a couple other guys around. We're trying to determine on some of the younger freshmen that came in what's going to best suit them as we move forward.
All right, and lastly on the offensive side, because everybody knows that offensive line is super important if you're going to run the football. We've been focused on that the last few seasons. Receivers. It was great news to get Talik Williams back, because I think he had gone into the portal and then made the decision to come back based on your hiring.
That was definitely a recruiting battle that we had to win. Very fortunate to have a senior like Talik with his playmaking ability, his experience, and also his return ability. He will add value to himself, and I think he will be a big impact and have a big impact on our explosive pass and run game.
Jakias Cradle back. Again, you've added to that room as well, because, is a Dell McGee football team looking at balance? Obviously, you got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to sling it around the field. Not necessarily 50-50, but successfully.
You kind of want to be in that 50-50 ball range. Biggest thing we're going to try to do is be explosive. Explosive teams tend to win football games, so that explosive margin of having more explosive plays than the opposing team and limiting those explosive plays on defense is a direct effect on wins and losses. So we're definitely excited about the receiver room, our skill positions, and even I love our tight end room too. But everything does start and end up front. We definitely have a ways to go in that area. Got to get on the same page and just find out who's going to be that kind of starting 5 and those next 3 that are going to kind of rotate in to add depth and allow us to play the brand of football that we want to play.
Yeah, bigger, faster, stronger, athletic. On the defensive side, just a broad stroke, because, again, you brought in some players from the portal. What impact players, or what players do you think could come in and make an immediate impact on the defensive side to go along with what you've got coming back?
We added, I would say, some bigger D linemen. Added a transfer from Utah State, Sir Mills. He had some stature, some anchor for us. He's about 315 pounds, 6'4". Ian Matthews is another D lineman that we brought in that's going to provide a bigger statue as a bigger end tackle for us. Bishop Thomas from Colorado, not necessarily tall in stature, but very explosive player that's 310 pound player up front that I'm really excited about. Then we got 2 edge guys that will be I think very good pass rushers and solid football players for us. So just a multitude of new pieces that we got to do a great job as coaches to find out what their strengths are, develop their weaknesses, and just get everyone on the same page and just maximize everyone's skill set to allow us to be successful.
Just a couple more. You've been over in Athens the last 8 seasons, so you have obviously been focused on that, but you've been looking from the outside in at Sun Belt Conference football, and obviously some of these programs played at UGA. Now that you're in it, what's your perception of Sun Belt football?
It's definitely gotten better since I was in it in 2014 and 15. So the league has expanded and added, quality teams. You can just look at the number of bowl teams that was represented from the Sun Belt Conference last year and the number of wins that were afforded to our conference. It shows how competitive the conference is, and you got to have your best foot forward every single week to be successful in this league.
All right, and the last question, and this is a non-football question, and you have been pretty vocal about this, that they're, from a student-athlete standpoint, you've had players come in. You recently did a networking session with them. You're trying to prepare them to not only be great football players for Georgia State, but you're also preparing them for whatever is after Georgia State football, and you've got a number of programs that you have put forth to help them in that area.
That's what it's all about. We're teachers at the end of the day, and we're supposed to make sure our student athletes are able to transition into the real world, whether after the NFL or after they get their degree. That transition needs to be seamless because of the networking opportunities in the great city of Atlanta and all the Fortune 500 companies, and really any type of 50-year plan that you want to have as an individual. The great city of Atlanta has those opportunities, so I feel like it's our job as coaches and as a development staff to make sure our guys are equipped to provide for their futures, and us as mentors modeling that behavior, I think, speaks volumes too.
Yeah, one of the benefits of being in Atlanta is having, as you said, all those companies right at your doorstep practically, and to be able to take advantage of that's outstanding.
Yeah, just continue to bridge those gaps, continue to get out in the community, and just try to explore and add value to our players is our number one goal. Football is important, but at the end of the day, how these young men prosper in life is the most important.
All right, Coach, appreciate it. Great having you here in New Orleans, your first time, and looking forward to fall practice getting underway, and August 31 will be here before you know it. Look forward to working with you throughout the year.
Yep, thanks, Dave.
All right, I want to thank Georgia State's head football coach, Dell McGee, with us here from Sun Belt Football Conference Media Day in New Orleans. We are in downtown New Orleans at the Marriott Hotel as we continue to preview Georgia State football here in 2024. Coming up in this next segment, we're going to talk to one of the disruptors on the outside on the defensive side, and that is Kevin Swint. A little later on, we'll talk with Justin Abraham. So we'll continue on here after this timeout on the Panther Insider Podcast from Sun Belt Conference Football Media Day in New Orleans.
Panther football is on WRIS.
We're back in our Panther Insider Podcast, Sun Belt Conference Media Day show as we preview Georgia State football here coming into the 2024 season. We've talked to head coach Dell McGee, and now we get a chance to sit with a couple of the outstanding Georgia State football players, a couple of guys that have been impact players for the Panthers and who are back here for the 2024 season. We're going to talk to Kevin Swint, and a little later on in the next segment, we'll talk to Justin Abraham. And right now joined by Kevin, and great to have you with us here in the Panther preview here on the podcast. And your first time you've been to New Orleans before, but how's the experience been so far as a part of Media Day?
It's been a real great experience. Being here for Media Day to support my team, just supporting Georgia State, it's been an honor.
You know, you look back at it, you've had an interesting journey. From your start coming out of high school, you're at Clemson University up in lovely Clemson, South Carolina. And then prior to the season a year ago, you make the decision to transfer to Atlanta and play for Georgia State. What went into that decision? I think we've talked a little bit about it before, but it's worked out pretty good for you.
Yeah, it was a decision that I needed to make, to propel myself to a better place, I would say. But my background has helped me so much being at Clemson. I have nothing but for love for them people up there. They help, my development, from physical to mental, knowing how to play the game and stuff like that. So it's been an honor, man. And just coming here to Georgia State, it's been nothing but, welcoming arms, a guy like Abraham. It's just been a lovely journey. So, I'm happy to embrace it.
I was going to say, of course, now we talk about transfers and the portal like it's, a regular thing, which now it is. And I guess it was a year ago when you came in. But what is that like when you walk into a locker room and maybe a couple of guys from your high school days and, paths cross. But when you walk into a locker room as the new guy and, here comes the big guy from Clemson.
It was a very cool experience. Like I said earlier, it was like welcoming arms, but it was kind of new for me, having to adjust to a new environment, I would say, learning new people, but, that's really a part of life, learning, new faces and networking, building relationships with different and new people. So, I really felt in love with that, and, it just helped me, be a better person at the end of the day.
You certainly seem to make a seamless transition after arriving at Georgia State last year, all Sun Belt Conference preseason this year. You shared the team lead with 8 tackles for loss. You had 4 sacks, a fumble recovery, 32 tackles. Talk a little bit about fitting in with the defensive unit a year ago, coming in as the new guy and coming in and making an impact like you did.
Oh yeah, it was a great role to play. I was just trying to come here and help them win games and do my part. I think that was the best thing I could have brought to the table, and so. Leading up to this year, just kind of building on top of that, trying to win something bigger as a team goal, and that's winning the conference championship.
Of course, not to recap last year too much, got off to a great start, the team did, and then, it was really a tale of two halves. The second half turned in, it was in a little bit of a tailspin there after getting off to a strong start, and yet this team, even coming off the loss at Old Dominion, ends up getting the bowl bid, goes out and plays a great game out in Boise, which was a great experience. But anyway, it just kind of shows the ability of that team to pull out of it and end the season on a really positive note and give you guys a little bit of a head start into this year.
Yeah, last year was it was a very challenging year, but at the end of the day, we accepted those challenges and we, embraced the adversity that came with it. Even though we started off hot, things didn't go our way the back end of the season, but we kept in mind a bigger goal, and that was to finish the season the right way. And send those seniors out on a high note. So that was really the main goal. And, building on top of that, I felt like it was kind of like a pillar for the next upcoming year in this season. Facing that adversity, I feel like this team, the foundation of this team knows how to face adversity. And when tough times come, we'll be able to bond together even more.
All right, so tell me a little bit about the process of the coaching change. Coach Elliott makes his decision that it's time for him to go back for his reasons to South Carolina, and then there's a little bit of that interim where you don't know what's going to happen, and then Georgia State brings in Dell McGee from UGA. Talk a little bit about it from the player perspective on what's going on around the stadium when that's happening.
I feel like shout out to Coach Elliott. He did nothing but great things at Georgia State. For me, helping me get here, and allow me to showcase my talent. But Coach McGee and the staff has did a great job of, helping the team bond together, helping us, I wouldn't say change the culture, but I would say evolve the culture to make it a greater place so that Georgia State can keep building on top of what has been set in stone over the past couple of years with Coach Elliott and then the foundation that he laid with his previous staff. So, it's been a real good transition. I feel like the guys are buying in, the staff has bought in, so, everything is going hand in hand.
They say sometimes players and teams take on the personalities of their head coaches. And, Coach Elliott could be pretty intense in times, but he could be pretty cool and, kind of good cop, bad cop. What has it been like so far as you adjust to virtually an entire new staff except for Antrell Allen?
The new staff has been pretty well. They're well-rounded guys, very precise, very sharp, very intelligent. With the head man, Coach McGee, very calm and collected, never loses composure. So that's pretty much what the team has incorporated into our identity. Just communicating effectively, whether that's on the field, off the field, learning more about each other as a team, so that way, when adversity comes like last year, we'll be able to, take that step instead of taking a step backwards. So
it is a learning process. I think people outside the circle, outside the locker room, don't really understand it, and I only mean that from football terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people wouldn't understand it, but I feel like once you get in that environment, once you get around a group of guys like, Abraham, Gavin Pringle, guys like that, all those guys, it's really easy to buy in. It's really easy to connect with each other because we have the same goal in mind, and we know, what we're capable of. So, again,
I read those numbers earlier: 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. Fumble recovery, you made an impact. The transfer portal is what it is. It's here to stay. And I know you guys are going through summer workouts, and I'll ask you that in a minute. But is there anybody on the horizon that we should be keeping an eye on that's going to come in and kind of make the same impact that Kevin Swint made a year ago coming into the program?
I feel like, the whole defense as a whole is going to make an improvement. I really don't want to single out anybody, but, the defense as a whole has been making strides throughout the summer, whether it's communication or accountability, responsibility, stuff like that. There's the things that help the things that help teams be great. As time goes on, I feel like the team has been growing as a whole, especially defense.
Talk a little bit about your new defensive coordinator, Kevin Shearer, and your position coach. You were going this way, and I'm pointing in a direction, and now all of a sudden you got a new staff, and you're going this way. And, they got to adjust to you. They got to learn a little bit about you guys and, who you are as a player and a person. But you got to do the same thing as well.
Yeah, I feel like you just got to have an open mind. You got to be able to be vulnerable, also be coachable at the same time. It's new for everybody, so the best thing we can do is, have an open mind and accept what they're trying to bring to the table and buy in. That's really what I would sum it up at the end of the day, buying in, being able to, adapt to something new.
Again, you transferred from Clemson. Looking back at it now, and the portal has become really even bigger, what's your thoughts on the transfer portal and the benefits to the student athlete with regards to it?
Yeah, just from my personal experience, I have nothing but, positivity from the transfer portal. It allowed me to venture off and get out of my comfort zone and also be able to showcase my talent and give me a new opportunity to, show people what I could do. And also, just trying to be the best version of myself every day.
All right, some coaches, I think more coaches than not, would say the most important coach in the offseason is that strength and conditioning coach and his staff. Talk a little bit about the new guy and how that has changed the approach, but how it's helped you this offseason.
Yeah, our strength and conditioning coach, KJ, he's been doing a great job. He connects with us, in a very highly mannered way. He sees eye to eye with a lot of the things that we do, and a lot of the stuff that we do is very intentional in the weight room. But at the end of the day, throughout the summer, he's the only one there with us. So I feel like that's really the key foundation, how to keep striving to get better day in and day out. Keep that one goal in mind, and that's the win.
Obviously, you look at it, it's a numbers game, whether it's the score, whether it's statistics. What did you want to do at the end of the season last year? Hi, I'm Kevin Swint, and this is what I want to get better at. This is really the area that I kind of want to focus in on by the time we get to August 31 in that first game.
I wanted to, develop myself, even more than, in every aspect, whether it was pass coverage, rushing the passer, being a leader, being a team player, being able to, handle adversity, and being able to lead my team in a positive way to where we can, reach our common goals. So that's really what I was trying to working on myself to where I could be better for my teammates.
Obviously, you're here. You were selected to come here, I'm guessing, by Coach McGee. Again, you're here with Justin. There's that old saying, lead, follow, or get out of the way. You're looked at now as a leader. I mean, you're here. I mean, you were selected to come here and represent Georgia State football. How do you embrace that role, and is that a role that you're comfortable with? I'm
most definitely comfortable with it. You know, at the same time, you know how you said lead, follow. I let Abraham lead the way as well. You know, I'm no person to shy away from being led. You know, I feel like that's the best thing, to have multiple guys on the team that can have leadership, and I feel like that's what Georgia State has embraced this whole offseason. You know, accountability. You know, guys buying in, having integrity. So being able to, you know, lead, that's a great role to have, but you have to have that mindset to be able to be led, you know, by Coach McGee and guys like Abraham.
Talking to Kevin Swint, we're going to talk to Justin Abraham here shortly. You know, people look at a football field, and they, of course, you know, it's fun to score touchdowns. One of the aspects of the game that I like are the guys that are the disruptors, right? And I've got two of them right here, because we got Mr. Inside Linebacker who's coming on next, and then we have Mr. Outside Linebacker. You guys are two of the, at least from the returning player status, two of the biggest disruptors on the defensive side of the football. I personally, I love watching guys disrupt offenses.
Yeah, I mean, I go to war for Abraham. I go to war for anybody on the defense, man. But yeah, man, you know, just developing that identity, you know, having that hard-nosed, blue-collar type of defense. I feel like that's the identity that we embrace as a defense. So being, you know, two linebackers come here today, I feel like that's a testament to what type of defense we'll be bringing to the season this year.
Certainly it's an interesting schedule. August 31 at Georgia Tech, which, you know, it's going to be the first time Georgia State and Georgia Tech have played in football. Then we don't leave Atlanta for 4 straight games, 4 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it is with the off week, and then 4 on the road. We've never done that before. It's any talk in the locker room about, you know, how crazy this schedule is this year?
Quite frankly, I don't think you know, anybody that's really looked at the schedule. I feel like, you know, all those 12 games is Georgia State every game. So we really focused on ourselves. Whether we playing in the top of a mountain or at the bottom of the ocean, it really didn't matter. You know, we just ready to spot the ball and play.
All right, any thoughts on the excitement that will continue to build as we get ready for that opener?
Yeah, we got a lot of excitement. Can't wait to see the fans come out. You know, those first 4 weeks, you know, hopefully we'll have a big crowd and winning some games.
All right, Kevin, as always, appreciate it. Looking forward to watching you this year disrupt on a weekly basis, and best of luck this season. I'm sure we'll talk as the season moves along, but appreciate you joining me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's Georgia State's outstanding outside linebacker Kevin Swint joining me here in New Orleans, Sun Belt Conference Football Media Day, as we preview Georgia State football heading into the 2024 college football season. Again, the Panthers will open up August 31 at Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd Stadium. On the other side of this brief timeout, we're going to continue to kind of focus in on the defense. We're going to talk with inside linebacker Justin Abraham after this. This is the Georgia State football preview radio show.
Panther football is on WRIS.
Our Sunbelt Conference Football Media Day show continues from Sunbelt Football Media Day here in New Orleans. We're looking forward to Georgia State football here in 2024, the 15th season of Georgia State football. Where have those previous 14 seasons gone? It seems like it's flown by. Georgia State coming off a bowl win at the famous Idaho Potato Bowl out in Boise, and getting ready to open the season August 31 against Georgia Tech. And one of the guys here in this segment that's been with us for, he's going to be obviously at Georgia Tech. He was with us out in Boise, Idaho. Again, one of the stalwarts on the defensive side of the football, and that is inside linebacker Justin Abraham. Welcome to the Panther Radio microphones. And how's New Orleans been for you? Had a great meal at Superior, and then I think you went by Bourbon Street for the first time. So you've really seen and eaten New Orleans.
I got the best of it, man. I'm really enjoying myself here. This is my first time in New Orleans, so being able to, every time I travel, one of my pet peeves is make sure I be where my feet at. So if I'm in New Orleans, I'm going to go for the food. I'm going to go enjoy the sights. Everybody talk about Bourbon Street. Me and Swint and Coach Dell, we went and seen Bourbon Street last night, and it was still relatively packed to be a Monday. So it was still fun, though. And not only that, we went to have some food. I went out, lit out my comfort zone to try some different food last night, and it was pretty good. So I enjoyed it, and New Orleans been definitely fun to me.
I think Coach McGee made a great call on Superior Seafood here in New Orleans. I think everybody enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah. Everybody at that table had a belly full.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about, we talked to Kevin in the previous segment about Georgia State football. Again, a little bit of a tale of 2 seasons. A year ago, great start, struggled a little bit down the stretch, but then closed it out on a positive note with a fantastic football game at the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. What's it been like for Justin Abraham since you got back from Boise?
Man, it just been grind season, man. I mean, we came back from Boise, and obviously the coaching change really surprised us. We came back, as a team, we thought everything was going to be. We knew the next step we was going to take, which was our physical standpoint and our mental strength and our mentality. But we kind of faced adversity when we had the coaching change. But after that, I mean, the team instead of rumbling and rumbling, but we're trying to get everybody together, which we are doing a good job at doing. And it's slowly getting there, slowly but steady.
The timing kind of threw everybody off, and it's an interesting time to go through that process. But, I think that's part of the reason why Coach McGee selected you and selected Kevin to represent Georgia State football, because you guys have kind of moved into that leadership role to be able to, bring everybody along.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we some old heads, ain't it? We probably say we some old heads, and we been around a minute, and we know the game, and we know what winning looks like, especially Swint. Swint knows what winnings look like for sure, especially at the championship level. So bringing that into here and being able to have his input on it and allowing us to see what a team's supposed to look like from his aspect and from what I've seen as a successful team, and just bringing them two things together along with other leaderships and other leaders we have back at the house together. And with that, I think we have a nice formula we're going to put together, and once the season starts, we're going to put it to play and we're going to see what's happening.
As I said with Kevin, a lot of new faces, but still stability with you two guys. What's it like in that locker room? And not so much the locker room, but the strength and conditioning room. Now you got a lot of new faces. You got to bring those guys into the Georgia State football family, and then 2 of the guys that are helping to usher them in are you 2 guys.
Yeah, I think it's all about the culture from where we have been. It always been Charlie Mike, and forever will be Charlie Mike. And just having that culture and being able to still bring the teachings from the new strength staff and them teaching us different things that we may have not worked from the old strength staff, but just being able to combine those 2 things and to make everybody better. And another thing I feel like everybody in the locker room has been doing is being accountable. Everybody's holding each other accountable a lot more than, I wouldn't say a lot more than we have, but you can steadily see it progressing day in and day out.
Sometimes they say in other sports, for example, in basketball, you just need, 5 guys on the floor playing together in order to be successful. It's a little different in the world of football because you're working with a roster of at least, 85 scholarship guys plus the other walk-ons.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's also a difficult thing to do, but once everybody, and Swint may have mentioned it earlier, once everybody get on the same page, and we all here for one thing, we want to win. And once everybody's on that same page and willing to sacrifice whatever it is they need to sacrifice, then that's all it is.
Summer schedule, a lot of time, as we said, spent in the strength and conditioning room. What did you want to improve on? And you had pretty good numbers last year. Again, 8 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, second leading tackler, 84. You were kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I was, but it's always room for improvement, especially my feet. I really want to clean my feet up. You see, I got these big old boots on. It's kind of hard to pick them up and put them down sometimes, but just working on that from a personal, physical aspect.
Some new faces on the defensive side of the football, too, getting those guys acclimated. Of course, it'll be a little bit of a new system. What's that like, bringing those new guys into the fold?
I think it's always fun. I remember this quote my high school, Jeff Calabrese, my high school coach, always told me, football is like a big old melting pot. You're going to have faces, different people from different walks of life, and that's just the fun part of it. You get to meet new people, and you get to hear different stories. Like Coach Dell mentioned with the score sessions, you get to hear these different stories, and sometimes it's not necessarily frightening, but you get to hear like what people been through, and you go to think about, well, what I've been through ain't that bad. I heard that. You feel what I'm saying? So that's always a sweet part about it.
Some of the new faces, who have you had a chance to really kind of get to know this summer, and who do you think is going to come in and really help make an impact on the defensive side?
I've been kind of all over the place with the defense, especially having that role. I've just been talking to everybody, and like I said, everybody has a neat, nice story, and I'm excited for the whole defense to actually explode because everybody's been on one accord. Everybody's listening to everybody and taking accountability, taking player-led coaching, and not only the coaching from the coaches, but taking coaching from the players as well. And I'm just excited to see this bomb go off, man.
Of course, a lot of people just focus in on Coach McGee. Really, the guys you're dealing with on an everyday basis is Coach Shearer and your position coaches. What is that like, and that process of getting to know one another?
Those guys do a pretty good job. They, like he said he gonna coach hard. If you ain't ready to play football, don't come to practice. So he coached pretty hard, but he coaches good, and he's very detail-oriented person, which we need and which I love.
Okay, I was talking to Kevin about liking disruptors. I'm up in the radio booth on game day. You're on the field. What is that like when you and Kevin are on the field at the same time? You're inside. I'm assuming he's to your right or he's to your left. Yeah. What kind of communication is going on in the heat of the battle? In split second, you're lining up, and you guys have got to know what play's coming.
That comes in with preparation. Whatever we've seen throughout the week, whatever we studied with film, and just playing football. At the end of the day, I mean, sometimes the outside looking in, people who hasn't been in the sport just thinks it's so hard. I mean, it's a hard physical sport. It's grind, you know what I'm saying, grindstone nose, hard-nosed boys playing against each other. But at the end of the day, everybody played football for the last, 6+ years. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun, and just being out there playing football and having fun and knowing we've been playing this sport for a long time, that's make it easy to me. And not only that, we practice every day. We love each other. You know what I mean? So it's just fun.
You love it when it's 100 degrees out there?
Well, I ain't saying. I'm just playing. Oh, yeah, it's fun, man. I love it.
Are you one of those guys who enjoys watching film? People think of practice as just being out on the field. Practice really before you get on the field, and when you get off the field, you're in there. I mean, and I think this particular staff is a film-watching staff. I mean, they all are, but you guys watch a lot of film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, when this staff came in, they definitely teaching me how to watch film now. 'Cause, I mean, you sit down and watch film, you may just – sometimes you look at you, but you might not need to look at you. You might need to look at what's going on the other side of the ball or how your defensive front is moving and carry on. But just doing that and them guys coming in and bringing in this just helped me and has been teaching me how to be a better film watcher.
Georgia Tech on August 31. I know everybody's looking for that. It's again, it's the first time, so it's not this big rivalry game, but it's still it's the first opportunity to make a big statement within the city of Atlanta.
Right, and I've been hearing a lot of people say it's the Battle of Atlanta, so that's been a pretty cool title people been putting on it.
Tell me a little bit about what you're studying at Georgia State and what you want to do when you play your last Georgia State football game, whether it's football at the next level or a career field.
Yeah. Well, personally, I'm an art major, so I study art, and what I do is sculpting, and I work with a lot of metal. Shout out to my professor, Emily, and the whole sculpture crew. So, yeah, so that's what we do. I really enjoy it, man, and people find it super interesting that I make time for my arts, because arts take time, too. You still got to practice it just like football, you know what I mean? And just being able to make time for that and just to still go out the way and have fun and do what I do with my sculpting and stuff. But wherever the good Lord take me, that's been my answer for the last 4 years. Wherever the good Lord take me, if it seemed that I go play football some more and go to the league or whatever or whatnot, I praise the Lord and I thank Him. If it seemed that I go do my sculpting and do art, and I praise the Lord and thank Him. You know, I'm blessed. So.
Where did that interest come from?
Growing up with my granddad, I'm from a small town of Hartsville, South Carolina, and just being around my granddad, we always been hands-on. If I wasn't doing something, I was watching him do something. So this always been a pretty cool thing, just working with my hands, and it almost seemed like my hands think for themselves. That's where all the math and stuff go in there. I don't do it up here, I do it with my hands. So just being able to construct things out of nothing and having literally, like, I have a sketchbook and being able to sketch and make something 2D turn into real life, it seems like I have a magic wand for hands at times. So,
well, that's pretty cool. We're gonna have to take a look at some of Mr. Abraham's art. That's interesting.
Yes, sir.
Best of luck with that.
I appreciate it, man.
All right, and we'll see you at fall practice out at Center Park Stadium, and then we'll see you over at Georgia Tech on the 31st.
That sounds good, man.
All right, that is another one of Georgia State's outstanding student athletes. That is inside linebacker Justin Abraham, second leading tackler a year ago with this Georgia State football team with 84. So we've talked to head coach Dell McGee. We've talked a outside linebacker Kevin Swint. Now Justin Abraham will continue with more from New Orleans as we preview Georgia State football here, heading into the 2024 season again, August 31 against Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd Stadium. More coming up after this on the Panther Insider Podcast, Football Media Day show from New Orleans.
Panther football is on WRIS.
We continue from New Orleans, the Sun Belt Conference Football Media Days. We've heard from Dell, McGee, Kevin Swint, Justin Abraham, and we're looking forward now to talking, as we do each and every year from this event, the Commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference. That's Keith Gill. I think you said this morning, Commissioner, this is, year 6 for you as the Commissioner? Time certainly flies, doesn't it? Because as I sit here looking at you, it feels like we just did this like a month ago last year heading into the 2023 season, and here we are again.
I know this is my 6th media day, which is hard to believe, but so much has happened since then. I'm really excited about the trajectory of the conference and where we're headed. So from when I started in 2019 to where we are now is really night and day, which is great.
What keeps you up at night with regards to college athletics? And remember, this is about a 10 to 12 minute segment. You could go on and on. There's so much going on in the landscape of college athletics. Some of it affects the Sun Belt maybe more or less than others. Some of it maybe more than others, but there's just so much going on.
Yeah, there really is a lot going on. And I really do think, some of these settlements we've had in the antitrust case are positive and going to bring a little bit of calm and certainty to the process, which I think is really positive. Trying to calm down the transfer space would be helpful, and also trying to get some safe harbor for some antitrust protection would be good. But I do think it's important to focus on what's good about college athletics. There are some challenges, things, but we are in a great time. Football's as strong as ever, more people watching it, more people interested in it, and I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to find a path forward to get to a better, more stable place.
More people listening to it as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Forgot about my radio friends. So.
Always got to remind you. Well, certainly it's an exciting time. I watched your address to the league this morning. 2 years ago, 7 teams earned bowl bids. Last year, 12 teams earned bowl bids out of the 14 schools. Georgia State was able to bring home a W for the league out at the lovely, famous Idaho Potato Bowl in Boise. What an incredible season a year ago that the Sun Belt Conference put on the what we'll call the overall college football stage.
Yeah, we led FBS last year with 12 bowl season participants, which is great. And it's interesting. I was talking to Charlie Cobb about the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, and one of the things I believe he said to me was that nobody on the roster had been to Idaho, and that's what these experiences are about. Just a totally different place than Atlanta, obviously, and giving people opportunities. So I was really excited to hear that. It was really a great competitive year for us. 12 bowl teams. Think about the whole East was bowl eligible, so every game you played in that conference was against the bowl team. Really exciting for us, and really think that this year can be even better.
You played at Duke, so you're former Duke Blue Devil. So you've seen now both sides of it, from the player standpoint, from the commissioner standpoint. As you look at these preseason polls in this 14-team league, JMU won it a year ago in the East, and Troy over in the West. This year, Appalachian State in the East, Texas State, the preseason poll. I have people asking me, well, how do you think Georgia State's going to do? And with the transfer portal and a new coaching staff and so many new players, which I know there are 5 new coaches in the league, I don't think anybody knows how good the league can be.
Yeah, I think that I'm really optimistic. I think that Georgia State hired a great coach. I think Coach McGee is going to be great. I think the one interesting thing about the system is, because of what we've been dealing with over the last 3 to 5 years, transition, even if you are the coach that's been there 5 years, you're dealing with transition because of the transfer portal. So I don't know that being new necessarily means you're not going to be that good. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think the league's going to be really difficult. You're going to have to win a lot of close games to have success. And I think that's what we want. We want a league that's really competitive, where there's going to be a lot of close and exciting games. And I think that's what we'll have this year.
Georgia State, of course, opens at Georgia Tech, and then our schedule, this is weird. I've never seen this before. We play 4 at home, followed by 4 straight games on the road, which is kind of a gauntlet in that 4 road game stretch.
Yeah, it's really a challenge, and I think it's so hard when you're building schedules. Trying to get the conference schedule around the non-conference can be a little tricky. So that is a bit of an anomaly in terms of having 4 and then 4, which would be great, and then it'll be difficult. But certainly, kind of just manage the schedule as it comes, and so hopefully good things will happen for you.
Folks always want to talk about the expanded college football playoff. It's up to 12 now. Looking at it from the Sun Belt standpoint, you would say?
I would say we're really excited about it. I think the Sun Belt is really built for being a regular participant in the CFP with the quality of our teams, the quality of our schedules. People are going to be battle tested when they get there, and certainly if you're the Sun Belt champ, you're going to definitely get your due consideration to be in the CFP. So I'm really excited about the new format. In the past we didn't really have a real opportunity to get to the CFP, and now we do, which is a great change for the better.
Certainly, it's it's nice to know, like in the world of college basketball, that you have a shot from day one. I mean, everybody knows that you have a shot, and it's nice to know, even though it's a smaller window, you have a shot at making it to the big stage.
Exactly. If you think about sports, it's kind of built on hope, and at the end of the day, that if your team is on the field, you've got a chance to win. It doesn't mean you're going to win, but you got a chance. And that's all you're looking for is a shot. And so I think you're exactly right. You totally nailed it, which is it's good hope. We've got an opportunity, and we just want to be on the playing field, and we've got that chance.
Again, we're talking to Sun Belt Conference Commissioner Keith Gill on our Sun Belt Media Day preview show. Could you in a million years ever imagine a Power 5 conference no longer existing with what we saw happen to the Pac-12? And this goes back to just talking about the landscape of college athletics. And I don't know that will necessarily affect the Sun Belt at all, but it does show you how quickly this is moving. And, of course, what's going on with the ACC and Clemson and Florida State. There's still a lot of moving pieces to what the landscape is going to look like.
Yeah, I think that's right. And no, I would have never imagined that the Pac-12 would go away. I just think about as a kid watching UCLA and USC football games and sitting down with my dad and watching those, to think that conference, which has been such a great storied conference, would be gone is, it's almost like COVID. I would have never thought there would have been a pandemic that would have shut the whole country down either. And so I learned that exists too. So I think, but I do think it creates a lot of instability in the system that hasn't completely dissipated. And so I do think that there's a lot of uncertainty that eventually will trickle down the Sun Belt. I mean, if you think about the most recent changes we had in membership, it really started with Texas and Oklahoma moving and just kind of working its way through the system. So we're not immune for those changes. We'll certainly be I'm watching them all very closely. But, yeah, I can't imagine it. I do think that there's a lot of uncertainty in the system, and that's got to play out over time. And so we'll see. And a lot of it's in the courts, some of the ACC stuff that's in the courts. And we'll just see how those judges kind of decide and what that does to the system in terms of creating more disruption or if it calms it down a little bit.
Nice thing, though, is that here we sit at Media Day preview, and this is very, very solid Sun Belt Conference right now.
Yeah, we feel really good about our membership. We feel really good about our football programs. We've got 5 new coaches and really excited about what they'll bring to the league. So, and then we've got, 9 returning coaches and really all solid, and that's a close-knit group. So we're really excited about who we are, where we are, and feel like really comfortable that we're going to have a really good season this year.
Of course, we do this every year. You don't mind me talking about basketball, do you?
No, of course not.
Hey, congratulations. You were elected vice chair of the NCAA Men's Basketball Committee. Congrats on that, and it gives the Sun Belt a nice seat.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about that. It's great when your colleagues kind of recognize you and kind of point you in a leadership role. So I'm happy and looking forward to kind of getting started and working with the group on the men's basketball tournament, which is such a great event, and I'm really honored to be a part of it.
So when we've talked about this in the past, just in regards to the Sun Belt, we know what the goal is, right. And right now it's a 1-bid league, and it's get to be a 2-bid league.
Yeah, exactly. And we're really close this year. We had 2 top 70 teams, which is great. We need a few more teams in the top 100 to kind of get where we want to go. But we won a game this year, so we took a step forward, which was a great win by JMU over Wisconsin. And so I really do feel like we are making good progress, but we still got a ways to go. And with basketball, it'll take some time because it takes so many people moving and there's so many parts. But I like where we're headed. I like what our coaches are doing.
Okay, so from the Sun Belt point of view, and I know where I stand on this, leave the NCAA tournament alone. There's been this talk of expansion, and I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying my opinion is leave it alone.
Yeah, I certainly think we've got to be careful, right? The NCAA tournament is such a great event. It works so well. It might be the best postseason event, in all sports. And so, but I do think that we do need to look and just make sure that we're not missing opportunities. I just think there are a lot of, forces out there in the market, whether it's other postseason tournaments, whether making sure that we're getting enough teams access, all those kinds of things. And some of those changes could benefit the Sun Belt. So I think I do think we have a responsibility to give that its due attention and due deliberation. But I do think, I agree with you that we've got to be careful because we don't want to ruin, a crown jewel event. But I do think, taking a look at it and making sure it's the most modern it could be makes some sense.
And I didn't want to overlook women's basketball because that certainly is getting better, and even on the larger stages across the country, more people are taking notice of women's basketball. Similar situation on the women's side. Yeah, we've got to continue to get better. We actually, had, our final last year with JMU and Marshall was great, and Marshall and the success that they've had. And we've got to keep getting better in that sport as well. It's really the same formula for men and women, in terms of what we need to do. We need to get a few more teams that are in that top 100 so that we can get more kind of good games against each other within the conference, quad 1 and quad 2 games. And, we're taking steps there. We're not as close right now on the women's side as we are on the men's, but I do feel like we're making good progress. And lastly, and we talked about this last year, 4 more teams in Sun Belt baseball. Some could argue that after football, because we know that football drives everything, the Sun Belt is a college baseball, and I'm really not sure about softball, but a college baseball-oriented league. Yeah,
I think we're so good at the diamond sports, baseball and softball. And, it's great. We had 4 teams that were in the regional finals last year. So we were, essentially a game away from having 4 teams in the super regionals, which would have been amazing. So a great baseball year for us. But if you think about it, in 2018-19, we had 17 teams that either competed in NCAA postseason or a bowl game. Last year, we had 37. So, we had 5 teams in men's soccer last year, 3 Sweet 16 teams. We had 4 volleyball teams last year make the NCAA, 3 softball teams, 2 women's soccer teams. So we really have been great comprehensively across the board, and I'm really excited about kind of our competitive success in football with the 12 bowl teams led FBS, but all the other sports too.
Commissioner, always great to have a chance to visit with you. It's an exciting time of the year. Like I said, this seems to come around faster and faster every year. You said you're going to be at, 2 or 3 games on that opening weekend? Yeah. So your schedule's about to pick up.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. 3 football games in week 1, which will be great, and it'll be fun to kick off the season on the road watching Sun Belt football.
All right, as always, appreciate it. Best of luck. We'll look forward to visiting with you during the season on a visit to Atlanta, and thanks for your time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate being with you.
All right, I want to thank the Commissioner of the Sun Belt Conference, as always. That is Keith Gill, joining us here in our Sun Belt Conference Football Media Day show from New Orleans. I want to thank our guests that joined us on the show today, and that was, of course, Georgia State's head football coach Dell McGee, and a couple of the stalwarts from the defensive side of the football, and that is, of course, Kevin Swint and Justin Abraham. Again, Georgia State football will kick off the season on the 31st of August as they head crosstown to take on Georgia Tech at Bobby Dodd Stadium. So appreciate you tuning in today, and don't forget we're back talking Georgia State athletics all season right here on the Georgia State Radio Network. Again, our first broadcast coming up from Bobby Dodd Stadium the 31st of August as Georgia State takes on Georgia Tech. For the entire crew here in New Orleans and in the studio in Atlanta, Dave Cohen saying thanks for listening to the Georgia State Football Radio Network.